The topic is the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and we're talking to Dr. Lewis V. Baldwin from Vanderbilt University. Dr. Baldwin, before we end this show for today, let's give you an opportunity to bring in some additional information dealing with the Civil Rights Act, and then later to sort of point us in some direction as to where we might be able to go from here. Let's use the entire period to do that.
Okay, before the commercial break, we were talking about the fact that the provisions of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 have not really been actualized or realized or translated into public policy solutions. I think in 1965 we needed the Voting Rights Act because part of the provisions of the Civil Rights Act had not been fulfilled. If you look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964, you'll notice that one aspect of it dealt with voting. But there were no specific guidelines about how people should register, about how the government should monitor voting activity and that kind of thing. So we needed the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Had to be added as another piece of civil rights legislation. When Dr. King was killed, before he was killed in 1968, he made a comment about all of these pieces of legislation, and he put the responsibility for the failure of these pieces of legislation on the federal government, because he felt that it's one thing to adopt, to introduce, to pass civil rights legislation. It's quite another to provide the resources for the implementation of these pieces of civil rights legislation. So we're dealing with that problem of legacy, as Dr. King raised it, with respect to civil rights legislation.
And so the resources are not there, even now, in terms of now, how would you bring this whole question that we have dealing